If anyone in the hallway wants to come in, we do have a couple of chairs up front, lots of room in the back to stand. First of all, thank you everyone for coming. My name is Mike. Just like you, I'm a taxpayer here in New Brunswick, and I'm concerned about the rising tax that we're paying on our properties. Just a couple of housekeeping rules first. The washrooms are in the hallway here, just to the left, generally where we came in. Everyone uses the same washroom. There is coffee and tea and water in the lobby as well. The coffee is now ready, of course, now that we're started, but the coffee is ready. If you'd like to grab a cup, feel free to go and grab a coffee. These brochures are going around, so if you haven't received one yet, maybe put your hand up and we'll get someone to give you a brochure. But these brochures right here, do we have any more? And if there are some extra, please take them with you when you leave. One of the steps, as you'll see, is to talk to your friends about this. So just to get started, admittedly, I'm not an expert in property tax. This is not a question and answer. I'm just going to talk for about 8 to 10 minutes, and then it's going to be an open forum. So one other rule that we're going to try to follow is whoever has the microphone has the floor. So this is a chance for us as neighbors and as taxpayers of the city and of the province to come together like-minded and share our thoughts, try to come up with some solutions, some actions that we can take, and hopefully get the word out that we're not happy with the rising property taxes here in the province. So I just wanted to start and share a few facts that we put together, and it's on your handout. 43% of homeowners are going to see an increase this year of over 10% in the province. So 43% of the homeowners are increased by over 10%. The total value in New Brunswick of property assessments have increased by $8 billion just this year. That equates to 10.5%, 2024 over 2023. 11% of the properties in New Brunswick have received no change. 24%, 5%, or up to 5% increase. 22% between 5 and 10%, and like I said, 43% of the properties have increased over 10% just this year. The amount that a property would sell for is being determined by mass appraisals. You could argue, is this really the value of our homes, or is it just speculation? An interesting fact is Service New Brunswick, as a solution, is offering equalized payments. Also, spike protection means that you only pay the increased tax on the 10% that your property tax went up, but you still have to absorb the other amounts of increases in the following years. So when you hear spike protection, it only helps you for 1 year. This is a real kicker, and this is something that we've been working on. We've labeled it as Save Our Seniors. If you're a senior, you can ask that your property tax payment not be increased. And again, this is what the minister is suggesting that the seniors do if they can't afford their property taxes. So your payment doesn't go up, but it's just a deferral program. So when you sell your home, you owe all of those taxes that accumulated over the years with interest. Basically, it's a reverse mortgage and an attack against your estate. One example, and this is a crazy example that we were able to find, in the Moncton area, a resident in 2021, their home was assessed for $255,000, and now is assessed for $795,000. I don't know the story, but that's just a crazy example. So what's happened is there's 3 steps that we can all take as taxpayers here in the province. If it's warranted and you feel that your property assessment is too high, you need to request a review of your assessment. And that needs to happen by February 14th. You can do that online, the web addresses are there, both English and French, or by phone. So step one, if it's warranted, request your review. Secondly, you need to contact and engage with your government officials. You always hear on the news, the province is saying, we just set the assessments, we don't set the rate. And the municipalities are saying, we just set the rate, we don't have anything to do with the assessment. But there's no communication, and that's just kind of the end of what you hear. So we need to engage all of our government officials. Your MLA regarding the property tax assessment increases and demand that there's action taken on that. And also your local municipalities or your rural service districts to demand lower property tax rates based on the increased values. One of them has to give. If our properties are really going up that much in value for a variety of reasons, either homes in our communities are selling for more, or our dollar is worth less, that's why our values are going up, then the rates have to come down, because we just can't afford to pay that much anymore every year, increase after increase. On the back of that page, speaking of step 2, is a list of resources for you when you do engage with your government. On the left, and I apologize for the small print, and I know you probably can't read it. I did a test print at home, and then we sent it to the printers, and it's kind of hard to read. But you might get it with the magnifying glass at home. And all of this information is obviously on Service New Brunswick's website as well. But on the left is a list of the MLAs. So when you contact your provincial government to talk about your assessment value, your MLAs are there on the left, phone numbers and email addresses. On the right is a list of all of the local governments. So all of the municipalities, towns are listed there, including their mayor and their CAOs, phone numbers, and then what rural service district, with all the changes, how we're now in districts. The rural service districts are listed there for you as well. On the left, bottom left, is a list of the rural service districts. So if you're not familiar with this process or haven't heard of it, you should read up on that as well. How we're now all being lumped into 12 rural service districts across the province. And the decision-making process is moving in that direction as opposed to at the very local level. And again, the district managers and the CEOs of each district are listed there as well. The third point that I'd like to make is to take the information that you hear and see here tonight and tell a friend about it. If all of us complete these 3 steps and tell a friend, we've just doubled the amount of people that have heard this. And there's extra papers there, and if you give your friend a paper, they can give their friend a paper, and so on and so forth. What we really need is a large group of people to start petitioning our government and tell them that we can't handle this anymore. Essentially, that's all I've had to say. For the rest of the hour and a bit, what I want to do is open the floor to whoever wants to speak, whether it's sharing a concern. We do have government officials here in the room. Whether it's a solution that maybe you can propose, or just a frustration. I don't want to turn it into us just complaining about property taxes. We need to come up with a solution. So if you're working on something in your neighborhood and you would like to share that, and we can put that across, help educate people and help bring attention to your ideas across the province, that would be great. So I'm going to pass the microphone to whoever wants to go first, and once that person is finishing up, whoever wants to go next, just raise your hand and we'll exchange the microphone. And again, if we could just keep it to one person speaking at a time, and whoever has the microphone has the floor, if that's fair. So would anyone like to go first? Merle? Maybe just, if you're comfortable, state your first name and then you can continue speaking. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Merle Sardi, and something that's come up in all of this is that I'm a I built a property, I bought a property back in 1988. I paid $42,000 for it. It was a shack on a horrible piece of ground, but I bought it and I worked on it. Today, they've assessed my value, and I got my tax bills for $135,000 is what they've done it at. Now I bought it for 42,000, and right now they're $135,000 what they valued at. Now I put an awful lot of work in that, and I'm going to try and be very quick here. They taxed me on all the work I did. They taxed me on the materials I put into it. And then when the value went up, they taxed me on the value of it again, okay? And they tax me every time I buy something to do a little upkeep on that, they tax it again. And they tax my income on it. And what I can see in the future is they're gonna tax me out of the ability to keep the thing. Or they're demonizing us and saying, oh, those greedy landlords, and there are some terrible landlords, there's no question about that, but not all of us. And we have to put the rent up to meet the bills and to meet the taxes. And that's not good. Now, the point of this, and many people are catching on to this right now, is that they are trying to tax us out of our homes and move us into the 15-minute cities. There's no doubt about that whatsoever, okay? And we are not going to change that by sitting home complaining. Now, I think that's a wonderful handout you got here, whoever put that together. And I think that's worth taking to your next door neighbor. And I'm going to do that when I get home. I'm going to visit that. I'll run a couple of copies of that all off. And I'm going to go visit my neighbors because it needs to be done. And we're not going to do it sitting home complaining about it. So let's get off our asses and get on the road. Thank you very much.
No, not me.
Hi everybody, my name is Edie, and I'm not a public speaker or anything, so you're just gonna have to bear with me. What I am is someone who loves to read government websites, and so my interest in all of this, got a lot of stuff to go through with you guys today. Okay, how am I gonna do this? Can I slide this chair over? Sure, just catch my breath first. Okay, so Michael, the gentleman who spoke first, mentioned something called like local service districts, the LSDs. Does everyone know what these are? Do we have some people who knows that we amalgamated in January of last year? Do we all know? Okay. Some of us do, some of us don't. Okay, so in January of last year, we amalgamated, as Michael said, down to, we used to have like 300 and some, how am I gonna, to put this easy, I'm sorry, okay, so to put this simple, we went through a whole bunch of people who used to, at a municipal level, help us figure out what we were doing and go from there. But then, about 20 years ago, maybe even not so far, they started implementing, so there's something, basically globalization started taking over with the municipalities, and there is a report out, if I can find it, right here. So it's a public-private partnership report, okay? So this is where they started combining all of our public and private just everything, to kind of start getting it down to, well, to put it, they're all bottlenecking everything in a way so that, I hate to say it because it sounds so out of left field, but it's to bottleneck it for like total government control, okay? So it's basically, when you want to get into the long story, it ties into something we're going to be facing possibly in the future that's known as digital ID. And I'm not going to get into that tonight, because why we're here is to talk about our property taxes. So what I'm going to do is this basically started, let me find my little piece of paper with my notes. So basically, this started decades ago with the John G. Finn report. Who is familiar with the John G. Finn report? We have one gentleman in here. Is there any other hands? David, did I see your hand go up? Yeah, okay. So the John G. Finn report is basically this report that they put back together decades ago. And the whole idea was to eradicate rural New Brunswick and to start building in the city centers and to build up, okay? So we have fought that for decades, the 80s, the 90s. Nobody wanted it because it eradicated our culture as New Brunswickers. And it also basically made it much more difficult to live rurally in MB. We're at the heart of the issue. I think we live in New Brunswick because it's rural and we enjoy a rural lifestyle and we enjoy small cities. Like if we wanted to go to a big city, we would travel down to Nova Scotia, to Halifax or Montreal, whatever. But anyway, so getting back to this John G. Finn report, it never went over smoothly. Everyone revolted against it. No one agreed with it except for the people who were trying to implement it. So fast forward to the most recent decade, and it's basically been reintroduced under the Higgs government as the Local Governance Act, or the White Paper, I should say, is technically the name of it. Who here has read the White Paper? Okay, I'd like to think so. Anyway, so the White Paper is basically how they were going to go about putting in all of this municipal reform down the road to get, to break from more small little quaint little towns to merging those together, and then slowly, another decade later, they opened it up more. So for example, I live in Hampton, and I used to be in Bloomfield, but now I'm considered downtown Hampton, even though I live out in the middle of nowhere. So that's a whole other story for another day. But the point of this is that's exactly what it's done. So if you look at the map of our municipalities now, I think there's 77 in total, and they all have districts, or wards, and then there's different zones and districts as well. So it does get quite complicated, which makes it very difficult for and everybody to just go and look and see what's going on. Now you can find your entity number. So even though we want to keep the culture alive, and you're from Kingston and I'm from Bloomfield, I'm technically entity 47. I don't know what the other entities are, but anyway, long story short, the White Paper, they brought it out, and then they said, well, they have I got so much paperwork, it's ridiculous, and I don't need to file through it.
Katie, can you bring it back to property taxes a bit?
Back to property taxes. Right, well, this is where it all so it all has to do with property taxes.
Okay.
Because the way our property taxes are meant to go up, it's a 5-year plan between 2023 and 2027. You can go on the websites, I've got everything printed right here. But you can go on and they'll forecast. So they forecast for you what they think our property taxes are going to go up from now until 2027. So for example, off the top of my head, next year, they're not gonna do anything, but the year after that, it's gonna double to make up for the fact that it hasn't done anything. And by 2027, it's that's basically their end game, where they're gonna try to file everyone in. So bringing it back to property taxes, the only way I think that we can get people to realize that they can do something about their property tax situation is by learning that we have amalgamated, because I feel like a lot of people don't even realize that we've amalgamated, and that some people aren't even in, there's rural districts as well, and they have everything's different for them. I read on the news the other day that one side of the Kingston Peninsula is considered a metropolis right now, and they don't even have sidewalks. So that's they're paying, and so that's the other thing, the LSDs. So our property taxes, now that we are in these LSDs, so St. John is our hub, okay? So all the money from Grand Bay Westfield, Hampton, St. Martin's, everywhere in between, Quispamsis, a lot of their property taxes are actually going into the city of St. John to pay for things like the aquatic center, see, I don't even know the names because I don't even use them, yet I'm paying taxes on them. The theater, the Irving Road, the field house or whatever. So like, people who live out in Grand Bay may never use these in St. John, yet they're paying for taxes on them. So what goes on in the city, especially when it comes to future development, is concern for people who live in the outskirts. And I guess just, again, we need to kind of understand why they're doing what they're doing when we are gonna go at them to get them to lower our property taxes. So, understanding, or it's not even that you need to understand, if you're gonna message your MLA and talk to him about this, you could even ask him to explain how it all works to you. And anyway, so I just wanted, I don't know, I had an awful lot of stuff that I could have gotten into, but I'm probably the only one who finds it interesting. So long story short, if you want to find out what the actual amalgamation was all about, you can read the white paper, and then you can read what they claim was the cover, or the public's response to the white letter, or the white paper. And anyway, so yeah, if you're I'm just gonna pass the floor now, but if you're interested in finding out anything else about the actual amalgamation and why we're paying more property taxes, I can definitely talk to you after the meeting.
What do you search, the white paper or
The white paper, yeah, it would come up, the white paper. Their slogan for this whole thing is working together for vibrant and sustainable communities. So you can also slap that on anything, and you'll find it straight across the board.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Have you ever entertained to have a legal challenge, like for a provincial legal challenge on this?
Absolutely.
Can the
Yeah.
speaker
Is there-
use the mic?
Sir.
No, I just, because I know you're involved with some other people there in Carter.
Yeah.
I think that what has to be done versus an individual basis, because it's just gonna get lost in the shuffle.
Absolutely. So a big part of this is, as much as we're always going to pursue court action when it comes to anything, we still need to let our neighbors know what's going on. We have a lot of new neighbors over the last few years that may not even know kind of how our politics work and what their property taxes are for. And anyway, I just think this needs to be a grassroots community effort to get out there and actually talk to our neighbors about this stuff. Because we have every right to, if people are in breach of duty, we have every right to form some form of our own contract. Anyway, I'm gonna,
You wanna go next?
If I can, because I'd like to add to
Yeah,
that.
I just wanna say one quick thing, just while he's,
Grant?
finishing up. It's interesting, a lady from Fredericton actually called me today when she found out about the meeting tonight, and she wants to work on a petition. Now, her idea is we need to have half of the province at least sign the petition. But it was an interesting idea that she came up with, and she was suggesting that the province only adjusts your assessment when your home exchanges hands, so when it's sold.
Here, here.
So every time it's sold, and the new assessment would just be the sale price. And then the municipalities would have to tweak their rates depending on the budget, and the budget has to get approved. And then the municipality, the councils, and the mayor have to run for re-election, so they're possibly more vested in making sure the taxpayers are happier. So she's kind of working on that, and I know I saw another petition as well, which is to either freeze or eliminate property taxes for seniors, so they're not priced out of their homes. So there's lots of ideas, and hopefully tonight is just a start so that we can get some of these ideas moving, because we do, like I said, we do need to have a big majority of the population, tell our government officials that this is what we want. But I really like that idea of just changing the assessments when the homes are sold. I didn't really think of that before, but it seemed like a good idea when she told me. I'll just let TC, do you have a question, or I'll just let TC go, and then we'll go to Brent in the back. Thanks, Edie.
Good evening, everyone. My name is TC. A lot of you probably already know me, but some don't. Some know me as security. Long story short, I wanted to add to something that he was talking about, the legal part of this. And when it comes to legal stuff and the people, it goes hand in hand. So in order for the legal team to even succeed, public need to be aware and show interest. So long story short, our legal team is always working towards this stuff, and that's not gonna stop. But we fill courtrooms on purpose. Now, I'm not saying you have to go fill a courtroom, but obviously everybody taking interest in this, and then you guys passing to someone else, and keep going, that's public interest, and that's gonna get shown very quickly. So that will help the legal team will help that, and it will literally play hand in hand. So I just wanted to make sure everyone understood, like, this will really help if we do this. The other thing is, I might as well tell you since I'm up here, I bought my house a year and a half ago for $92,000 it was assessed at. And this year alone went up $30-something thousand. I'm literally at $147,000 now. So it's ridiculous. Like, what is it going to be in 2 years? Now it's $200,000. You know, it's just out of hand. It's just too much going on. It seems like corruption to me, but whatever. That's up to someone else to decide. We'll see at the end of the day. But that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Make sure everyone understood. Like, we need public as much as we need legal teams. So everybody needs to kind of work together. I think it's about time we stop this.
I do have one interesting fact. I don't even know if I need the microphone. Do you guys know, who here knows, oh, I'm sorry, I cut mine.
You get you up next for sure.
That's so lucky.
Thanks for that. So my name is Brent Harris. I am your counselor at large. A lot of things I can speak to some extent. I have a property in Markham. I bought it for $90,000. I put about $17,000 worth of material into it over the last 4.5 years, and it's now worth $220,000. So listen, believe me, I got 4 kids running around, and that's not an easy pill to swallow at any extent. But when it comes to your tax rate, Mike, you said it right. You have this battle that happens, and it's really difficult as a municipal official to be able to look down the line and guess what a third-party assessor is going to come in and do to your property so that we can set the tax rate so that it's equitable. Right now, when we get that information, we're behind the gun, we're looking at a budget, and we don't know exactly where the coins are gonna follow, if you will, or where the pieces will follow. And we have a difficult time trying to put together a budget, because at the end of the day, you know who's not paying any taxes. You know whose property taxes only went up 1% this year, and that's your heavy industry. That's the sites that your billionaires sit on. And that's something that we have been fighting tooth and nail about for the last 8 years, at least at this council. Predates me, I only came on council in 21. And it is an ongoing discussion, and we're now getting to a place where we're just trying to ask for what industry taxes are collected to stay here. Because it makes it really difficult when you're looking at a 40% increase or a 30% increase, and they're looking at a 1.2% increase after we just gave them $200 million worth of our money to modernize the pulp and paper mill. Right? It's a major problem, and it causes havoc with our budget, especially when we have to, by law, have the highest paid fire department so that we can put out fires like AIM, which we still couldn't do because we still didn't have the equipment we needed to put out that industrial presence and that fire. So there's a lot to go on here, but I'll tell you a couple ideas that I've been working on since I came on council. And one of them is a provincial lane and one of them is a municipal lane. But one of them is a land value tax. Right now you have a property tax assessment system, which means when I fix my house, I am punished for looking after it, right? I gotta pay higher taxes on that, rather than paying for the services that I get. A land value tax switches that around, where your land is taxed based on what you've got. If you've got city water, if you've got a sidewalk, if you've got a plow coming there as a tier 1 road, if whatever you've got, then that's how that would switch things around. Now that's a big deal to try to get that to happen. It would require a major overhaul of the tax act that currently governs all this. Now when it comes to the tax rate, that's something that is more manageable for us. Now we've lowered it since we've got here, 17 cents. 20.5. 20.5, thank you, Councilor Radwan, who's in front of me. Much better with the numbers than I am. So we've lowered the tax rate by 20.5 cents, but it hasn't, everybody's bill's up. And that's this battle that you see happening back and forth. So if there's one thing we can add to the mix here, it's tell your MLAs that you're sick and tired of seeing the regional hospital, which is ours, pay more in taxes than the Irving Oil Refinery. Right? That is, it is an egregious, and I'll tell you, as somebody who's traveled to other municipality, like conferences, and I've talked to councillors in Alberta, they can't believe it. They can't believe it that our industry sites pay as little as they do. They get millions and millions of dollars more, and their tax rates are 0.5 cents per $100, because they can collect what they need to pay for the services that those industries force us to have. So there's a lot here. I'm happy to have a broader conversation. There's all kinds of things being talked about here. We were talking about regional service districts and things being amalgamations. You know, I'll probably be one of the ones that say we didn't go far enough on that. You know, look over at Nova Scotia, they got a bigger population with 50 municipal entities. Here in the St. John region, we've got 7 mayors within 20-minute drive of each other. It is, like, I get it, we wanna localize our decision-making as best we can, but as a kid from Blacks Harbor, seeing my mother, who was a deputy mayor there, fight with every other little local service district for years to get them to contribute to the arena, which all their kids came and played in, which everybody used for events, but none of them paid a dime toward it. So it is one of those tricky conversations, and it depends on where you sit, right? It's easy to say, well, if you don't use the service, you shouldn't have to pay for it. Well, I didn't go to the hospital this year, but I still gotta pay taxes on it. And so that becomes one of these really difficult battles, but that's a broader conversation, but I'll stick around, happy to have it. But when it comes to our tax issue, provincially, we can advocate for a land value tax. That's a real easy flip-flop that we can do. I shouldn't say easy. It would take a major overhaul of the Tax Act. And Green Party leader David Kuhn is here, and he will know how difficult that is more than I would. But there are solutions there on that front. On the other front, if we can just keep what we have from the industry, we can start lowering the tax rate, not by 5, 6, 7 cents here, but by 20, 30 cents on the 100. So that's a pretty important thing, so I'll pass
What's the
it.
tax rate right now, Brett?
Tax rate right now is $1.59. 58, thank you. So when I came here, it was $1.81. Was it $1.81 or $1.79?
1.789.
Was when we came on. So we have dropped it. But again, then the next year, then all of a sudden we look and it's like, so, and another weird thing that we're finding out, depends on where you live. So Oda and Portage Lane on Rossay Road, you see that border line there. There's houses on both sides of that border in St. John and Rossay. Same house, St. John, 40% increase, pretty much same house, bungalow, 10%, 12% increase in Rossay. Different tax offices, because your tax assessors are tied intricately to your tax policy. And it's not like that in any other province. There's no lens of equity that has to exist in our assessors' language, because they have no mandate for equity. They don't have to care that somebody walked in there and wrote on a piece of paper based on the house that is in this district, right, that sold for $140,000 above asking price, which somebody from Ontario is gonna pay, and they do. They don't have to care that the house beside it, which is, yes, across the border, across the line in St. John, you know, is paying, you know, a different amount. So the equity lens is not there in the Assessment Act, and the assessors, they have a job to do, just like we do. They're not going in there trying to gouge anybody. They're looking at the rules they have to follow, which based on market rate and market pressure. And that is another problem, right? We have delegated all of our housing and all of our shelter to the market. And the market doesn't give a crap if I can bear the burden of the tax on it or not, or the assessment that it's assessed at. The market wants to make money, and that's all it does, right? So it's convoluted to say the least, but there are some simple things we can do to fix, at least in the interim, and anyway.
What about the municipal things? How come you can't fix that on the tax aspect of it?
Which ones?
Well, like, I mean, you look at the taxes, there's provincial and then there's the taxes that,
Right.
you know, that are tied to the city, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so obviously you just drop the percent, or the rate on per 100
Yeah.
assessment, okay? But the other stuff like water, sewage tax, you know, stuff like that, like, why are we paying $1,500, like when you bundle it all together?
yeah, so back to the,
Like
you
Casey
pay,
Irving did a deal with the town of Lancaster in 1948 for
Right.
$35,000 for 25 years. and they're still using that model today.
Yeah.
With the citizens of St. John, they use 7 to 9% of the water, we're paying 9% of the cost.
So
That equation's,
you
it's
know,
still there today.
yeah, the water one is interesting too, because we look at our water rate and you say, okay, what's the comparison in Fredericton and Moncton? Well, their water rates are lower. Well, why? Because you guys have to have 37 lift stations to move water around this place, and they have 4. The infrastructure we need to put in place and maintain just to move water around this city is crazy.
But the thing
Compared
is,
to
for
Moncton.
the two
Now, I'm not
refineries-
saying it
the
should be
two
what it
mills
is.
in the refinery, they use millions of gallons a day.
Yeah,
But they're paying their fair share now.
A day.
but we have brought them up. So, but
you
your
haven't brought
rate
them up-
hasn't
You
changed,
haven't
I know
brought
what you
them
mean.
up to the point, and like, I'm not singling that out, but I'm just looking at it all, it's
Yeah.
all bundled together, right?
Yeah,
I mean, there needs to be a breaking point, you
I
know,
agree.
especially this, you know, whether it's on the city side or on the provincial side.
yeah.
There's
You know.
legislation against us charging them.
There is legislation that holds us to a certain, especially like even our multiplier. So right now, we set the tax rate, and that is the tax rate for everybody, whether you're commercial, whether you're industrial. All we can do is multiply industrial sites by a certain amount. You know what the fact is, the Higgs government this year gave us the opportunity to change the multiplier to 1.7 if we wanted. So we did, we maxed out the multiplier on industrial sites. You know what? They paid less tax this year than 2014.
Yeah.
So they knew, because the province dropped their tax rate on industry, and we don't collect what they collect. They keep the $7.5 million that comes out of the city every year in industry rates, which again, doesn't happen everywhere else. You go down to Nova Scotia, you go down to Sydney, they keep it all. And their tax multiplier on industry is 2.7. So just in our own backyard, you know, but we're held to a different standard here in New Brunswick, and it has a lot to do with people who can pay to lobby the government. And it isn't us, unfortunately. I don't have the money to go up in Fredericton and sit in an MLA's office and show them all this data and information about why I need lower taxes. But our heavy industry partner and our billionaires do. And I'm not over here trying to get a pitchfork out and go and invade.
Like, this has been going on for the last 40 years, right? I mean, you look at St. John compared to Moncton and even Fredericton, I mean, you know, we've always been the back door of everything down
I
here.
know what you mean.
And we've got the most vibrant city in the province here.
So what can we do? You know, what can we do?
Like I said, I think we need to tell our MLAs, we got an election this year. You gotta tell whoever's running that you're not gonna settle for anything less than St. John keeping what it should from our industry. And as soon as you can get the hands of, because let's face it, what does the province have to do for the industry sites? Nothing, really. We have to send a firefighter when there's an emergency. We have to pave the roads that their trucks drive on. We have to put the pipes in the ground to send them water. So there's no reason for the province to be keeping $7 million. I'd love to tax them more, but they have more firepower than I know what to do with to keep their taxes low. And it doesn't seem to matter who's in government, at least between Libs and Conservatives back and forth here for the last, well, my lifetime.
There's things municipal though, Brent, that you can go after. Get something.
Yeah, I don't wanna go after pennies on the dollar here. We're talking
Well,
about
it's
$7
not
million
pennies on the dollar. I mean,
in
if, you
industrial
know,
tax.
if we should be paying about $600 a year for water and sewage, not almost $1,500.
Mhm.
But it's a legislation.
Okay,
that
it's
needs to
crazy.
change.
Yeah, so,
You
I
know,
don't wanna,
Messaging the MLA.
I don't wanna hog the.
Don't
Right
really
over here.
go
Just-
anywhere, they just
yeah.
ignore you.
Just before you, there's a lady in the back that wanted to go next, and then we'll go by the door. Thank you, Brian.
So my name's Watson, and I'm one of those people from Ontario, but I didn't spend 800 grand on a house. I bought a mini home. So what I wanna say, I'll wait 1 minute, but I can't believe how people are being punished for just making a profit on their homes. That's capitalism, and we're being screwed. If you make a few bucks because you look after your home, or you're lucky enough to have a husband to fix everything up. But what I wanna ask, because today I called for a reassessment of my property tax, it did go up 10%. I don't own the land, they just canceled public transit to where I live in Riverview. And I also wanna thank whoever posted this, meeting on the mini home Facebook thing, cause I'm like, wow. 'Cause I just wish I had gotten everybody in the park to come, but we just hand our money over. And so I asked the guy on the phone, what does this money pay for? Oh gee, that's a good question. So, I'm very serious when I say, where is this money going? And the reason I'm gonna ask, and I don't wanna say much about what I do, because I don't wanna lose my job. I sort of work for an agency that's funded by the government. I go into people's homes, I take care of stroke victims, post-surgical, my favorites are the dementia people, because we have a great time. But there's homes I go into, they send me, and there's nothing wrong with these people. They've got an able-bodied spouse, younger than me, I'm an old-age pensioner. They've got a young guy there. I've gone into hoarders' homes that eat their food and throw it under the couch, and you can't even see the color of the living room wall. What am I there for? And I've told the office, I'm not going back. I don't know what I'm there for. There's a lot of homes like this. And yet if you needed care for your mother or your husband that you can't get him into the bathtub yourself, you won't get it. You're gonna pay because maybe you've got a pension from work. So I see all this money. My neighbor across the road, she has her mother living with her. Mother drives, comes out and smokes cigarettes. She's getting home care twice a week, 6 to 8 hours a week. And I'm thinking each hour is costing $60 or $70. Not that I'd make that much money, but the agency makes a profit, and then all the infrastructure. I really believe some politician or somebody owns these agencies or has their hand in it, because I don't know why this is going on. I am disgusted. And I have left, assignments and said, I don't want to go back. I don't say because I don't know what I'm doing. I just say I don't like it. Because these people they're dirty, whatever. But that's what I want. I think all of us need to find out what exactly, and it's not just enough to say, oh, we fund the police and we fund your fire department and we paint your crosswalks. We need a full accounting to see. And if somebody said it's not your business, it is your business. Otherwise, everybody hand me $50 because I need it, and you're not gonna know what I do with it. We're handing over thousands. And likewise, I don't know if anybody lives in mini homes, but mine's brand new. I paid just under $200 for it, with the taxes included. People next door to me and down the road, they've got nice homes. Granted, they're 15, 20 years old, but they've got granite countertops, they've got beautiful homes. They're paying $300 a year. They're paying $260, they're paying $500 because they're deemed older. I'm sorry, how does that calculate? So anyways, all I wanted to say is, I'd love to be part of something to communicate this to the people back home, because there's several parks within a 10-15 minute drive from me. Because I think people need to
Stay out there.
do something. Well, people need to know, we are so complacent. We let the federal government send money overseas, we let the federal government do a RiveCan app, we let the federal government do all these things, and there's corruption and dishonesty at every level. And now that I've made this province my home, I don't wanna put up with this shit, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because you don't deserve it, like you guys are so nice, that's what I'm gonna say. Anyways, that's all.
Right over here.
Be
Hey,
nice
guys.
to people from Ontario.
I just had a quick question for Brent. There's other things I just don't have all my thoughts put together. I'm still trying to learn about all this. Just bought a house, Lower West Side in 2021, and heavily affected by the tax increase. And the question was, so I'm trying to understand the MOAs. Do they have any sort of say, so like, let's just say we tell them about it, but then we still have the legislation limit. So how do they, like, say we change who's in charge, do they have any ability to alter that? Okay, cool, so I just wanted to check and see, that,
We're in charge.
okay, yeah.
So,
We're in charge.
can everybody hear me? I can answer that really quickly. When you write a piece of legislation and you say what the mandate of that legislation is, it's almost like putting a boat on a track, right? And it doesn't matter who's on the boat, doesn't matter who's in charge, until you turn the steering wheel, the boat doesn't turn. And the Tax Act has all kinds of pieces in it that are now on track. And until somebody opens the Tax Act up and changes the policy that governs it, it won't change. It doesn't matter who's in power. That's why you need to know what your candidate for the future is going to commit to. They may not be able to do it on their own, but their party can. So hopefully, We have some parties out there that are gonna say, look, we're gonna take on the tax act and make it equitable and not just,
Has it
the
ever
same,
happened?
tax act hasn't been changed in how many years?
Has it ever happened before that?
It's been 60 years or something like that.
Doesn't something more drastic happen?
That's pretty drastic.
He's in.
Can I give you guys the microphone?
It would be,
Hi, everybody. I'm David Kuhn, and I am an MLA. And
Thanks for being here.
No, I've been asking city councilors, which is great, for city councilors, Paula and David and Brent and Joanna. Fantastic. We're not doing so good on the MLA side, but here I am, leader of the Green Party. So first I want to say, this 1, 2, 3 step thing is great. Only I would amend number 2. Book a meeting with your MLA.
Yes.
Mondays are called constituency days. Every MLA is supposed to be in their office, in your community, where you live, on Mondays, meeting with their constituents, the citizens in their community. Everyone does it. We don't go to the legislature on Monday, we're in our offices, we meet in our offices other days too, but the rest of the week might be the legislature, but Mondays is constituency day. Book an appointment to actually go sit in your MLA's office and tell them what you think. It needs to happen. Now, I gotta admit, I'm kind of being two-faced on this, because when I was not in politics, I had never been in an MLA's office. Never. But now that I am an MLA, I can tell you that when people come to my office with whatever the issues are, it actually influences my thinking about what I need to bring to the Legislative Assembly to try and affect change. It literally does. Sure, we run on platforms, as you know, what is a platform? The election, but a lot of what we bring to the legislature comes from the people that we meet in our offices. Well, I'm speaking for my MLA, so the Green Party. I won't speak to the others. But that's how we work, that's how we run, that's how we go. So it's important to go meet your MLA and have a sit down face to face with them in their office. So that's just a friendly amendment, like good
idea.
paper, but friendly amendment there. Secondly, I think from what I've heard, we all agree the property assessment system is patently, profoundly unfair. So unfair. So it needs to be fixed. So we need to figure out how to fix it. Brett made a suggestion that was interesting. You think outside the lines here, crayon outside the lines, about how to do it. Across Canada, every province uses basically the same assessment type system, except most other provinces have an equity clause built in. So there's equity among the way things are assessed. We don't. A friend of mine is in court, he's been in court for years trying to address this because of the lack of an equity clause in our legislation. How do we change legislation? Well, that's what governments do, or that's what, if there's a minority government, opposition parties can force the government to do, is change legislation to fix those kinds of things. We need to make property assessment fair, and we need to figure out how to do that. So one of the things we're looking at right now in my office is what other places in the world have got fair property assessment systems. What can we learn from them, and can we apply them here? And so we're just digging into that now. Because when you look across Canada, it's essentially the same, except for most places have the equity clause in their laws, which makes for a fairer system just with that, but we need to go well beyond that. Yeah?
Is there any place in Canada that pays no property tax?
No. Doesn't exist. No. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, churches will.
The Amish.
No, I thought you meant regular people living in the houses.
house every once a week, we get That's a good. I know we pay way more than everyone else in Canada on this side.
Go ahead.
I would like to know what those of us who no longer have MLAs are supposed to do.
Good point. Good point. Well, you're kind of out of luck when you don't have an MLA, aren't you?
Always no good.
So the next thing you can do I guess, in the absence of an MLA, so this is what they do, this is what the other parties do, is if there's no MLA, they'll have another MLA kind of try and cover that riding. So someone will be named from an adjoining riding by the, in this case, the Conservatives, I think, probably, talking about Arlene. Yeah, be named by the Conservatives to one of the other MLAs to cover off the St. John Harbor. I don't know how that works, I don't know whether you actually get a chance to meet with them or not, but that's technically what happens.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right,
Can you speak to how water and sewage works, like how you can't charge more to heavy industry and how it has to?
oh, that's municipal, I don't know anything about that.
It's legislated by the province that, you know, like, so for years, we had been paying to subsidize heavy industry, and now there's legislation that won't allow us to charge them more to maybe subsidize the residents a little bit.
So there might be Irving-specific legislation,
Well,
there might be. I'm remembering back now to reading a book about the Irvings and the water deals that this gentleman was talking about, that were signed a long time ago.
48.
And I seem to remember, actually, there was something passed around that in the legislature, so.
Yeah.
I'll look into it, I don't know,
so we
I've never
can't-
seen it,
I
but,
mean, we can't charge them more now, but back in the day, the residents were basically subsidizing heavy
Yeah.
industry. So, you know, I've asked the question, like, you know, can we reverse that now? Because since for decades, the residents were subsidizing heavy industry, can we kind of put that in reverse? Because, you know, I mean, it is my biggest thorn in my side is my water and sewage bill. It just drives me crazy.
I'll
And
look into it.
by, you know, everybody else by the way, Brent was talking about Moncton, Fredericton, they're all metered. So, well, it's coming, but it's a long ways away.
You can ask.
As far as St. John being the best city in the province, wanna talk to you about that? No, of course it is, don't tell my constituents.
Lady in the back.
Yes.
So David, a few months ago, the opposition brought forward some legislation to change the tax legislation, right? And it got voted down completely by the Conservative government.
It was,
Um,
I think it was a motion, but anyway, it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
it got voted down, yeah.
Nothing went forward with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's very important that we have to lobby to get this changed, for heavy industry, because it's coming on our backs to pay the difference that they're not paying. And if anyone is able to write up a good petition that we can take around to have this change in legislation, I think as many as we can get to take it, especially before the election.
It's not fair. It's not fair, and kids would recognize that if it was explained to them, because as you know, young people, kids know about fairness, and they know about unfairness. I know from my daughters, they know when things are unfair in the family, and they tell you about it. And even children could figure this out, that this system is unfair, and we need to fix it.
David, as long as you've been in the legislature, how effective have petitions been? Have they changed anything?
So,
There's all kinds of petitions, but
There's-
it gets read. They read them out, somebody, oh, I've got this petition, it was signed by so many people.
so what,
And nothing
yeah.
ever changes.
It's- So I'll tell you how we use petitions. So we read out the petitions, we sign them, we support them, and then we plan a whole day around it. So our questions and question period relate to what's in the petition. Our member statements, everyone gets a 60-second statement at the beginning of the day, relates to what's in the petition. If a minister gets up and gives a statement about the issue, an issue at all related to the petition, we talk about what's in the petition, you know, the issue the petition is addressing. So we try and amplify what's in the petition, and so that ups the pressure that the petition by itself pushes. And yes, petitions do, when they're used that way, effectively make a difference. The petitions and all the work that was done around those petitions to get the Gagetown ferry back worked.
That worked.
Why not Trudeau?
That worked.
What about
Well,
life
tackle
savings?
him.
What about
Yeah,
glyphosate?
yeah, that's a
There's-
big one, cause
But-
there's like over 30
30,000 people who signed
Right,
that, and
well,
what happened?
who benefits from the glyphosate?
I'd like to ask you, Mr.
Same guy who benefits from the water deal.
would you be willing to table a petition like this that we're talking about? And if so, how many signatures would we require to make it effective?
So the thing about petitions, so for things that are tabled in the legislature, the number of names doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you don't have to say how many names, no one reads how many names, so it's just the petition by
Will you
some
table it
people.
for us if we make it?
So, send it to me. So, if it's a public thing, like you're trying to do a big public event, a big rally, and want to present a petition, to politicians to table, then it matters, and the media is there covering it, well, then it actually matters how many people sign the petition, because you want to be able to tell the media, 1,000 people signed this petition, or 10,000 people signed this petition, or whatever. But in the legislature itself, if that's the only place the petition is actually intended to go, the numbers don't matter.
In other words, you gotta go public with the petition before it goes to the government.
The thing is that
It's
this,
better.
this problem affects every person, not just this group of people. They're
Absolutely.
just the ones who couldn't
Yeah.
come tonight in this
Yeah.
area. But moreover, the thing that wasn't addressed, and I'm not really addressing this question to you per se, maybe you, but, the issue doesn't seem to be with the tax rate, it seems to be with the assessed value. That is the problem we're having. Now, I'm not aware of any particular legislative change that allowed the property tax assessors to just raise the prices arbitrarily because they're price gouging like everyone else.
Well, they follow a formula, but here's the thing on the property assessment system. Liberals and conservatives have said that they are going to, restructure property taxes, property assessment system, and none of them have done it when they got in power. There are so many deals over the years that were cut on property assessment. And, I got a call from a woman who spent years in that work in government, doing property assessments. And there are lots of sort of deals that were made over the years, and I don't think they want them uncovered. Because if you do an inquiry, the unfairness will come out. The deals will be exposed. And that's what we want to do, and fix the system so it's fair. Because really, that's what you should be expecting from your politicians. They're there to provide good government and make sure that they've got your back when you need them. If you're sick.
And we shouldn't have to sign petitions to do this. We should be being heard by every single politician, no matter whether they're here or not.
Absolutely, yeah,
And it's a
absolutely.
big problem.
And it's not just conservatives either. Sit there and throw out parties, but it's all.
I would say successive governments, how about that? That covers everybody. Except us.
So should we have had the media here tonight so that we would get our point across to the government? I mean,
Sorry, say that again?
should we have had the media here tonight to get our point across?
Well, it's always good, but you have to get them out.
Well, why don't we have?
Well, you could get the media here pretty easy, but harder for the regular people.
Yeah, if you had double the people, maybe you would have got.
Oh, we can bring way more than double people.
Anyway, I've occupied the mic enough, but if there's anything else
The
before I sit
reason why the
down.
media is not here is because they are controlled by the government. So.
I don't think Bob Jones is controlled by the government. I don't think even CBC controls Bob Jones. Anyway, thanks for being patient, hogging the mic here.
Thank you.
I just want to say that, like her, I grew up here, moved away for many years, and held hostage, of course, by my husband's work at the time, but moved back home 2 years ago, very happy to be home. What I want to say is to strongly, strongly encourage all of you to do more. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always have what you always have. I've lived across this country, and I can tell you what happens. Just one small piece. You are starting to feel the sense of the tsunami coming from across the country and other countries moving into the area, bringing their dollars, prices going up, taxes going up. How that affects seniors, of which I am one, is that the seniors can no longer, for instance in Ontario, can no longer afford their taxes. So at a point in life when they need their community more than ever, when they need their churches, when they need their support systems and their families, is a time when they have to find themselves moving out into the wilderness somewhere. Now, it sounds like here, they're trying to move the wilderness into the city, but it doesn't make sense. If you look at what's happened across the country, whether it's Vancouver, Victoria, Ottawa, Toronto, I've seen this and tracked this, and I've always tracked what's happening here in St. John, because I always want to come home. But something more has to be done. I honestly believe petitions are not going to do it. There's gonna have to be some very drastic action, like not paying your taxes, which I'm seriously considering. I bought a house 3 years ago, taxes were $2,400, and within 2 years, it went up over $1,000. I'm a senior citizen, whatever. So myself personally, I'm already feeling it. What's happened, what I've seen happen everywhere else. We're not gonna be able to afford to stay in our homes when we need everything the most. And if something doesn't change, that tsunami will only continue, and not only will it grow, it'll grow at a faster pace. And your seniors, I'm speaking seniors, but I think you get the idea, we're living longer and we're living healthier, and we're not gonna have anywhere to go but into the wilderness pretty soon.
My name is Joanna Killen. I'm the representative for this ward, and I'm also a candidate for the Greens with David, so just to be fully transparent. I want to offer helping organize. I was so impressed to see that you pulled this together, Mike, and the team, and that it was broader. Congratulations to you for doing this, because this doesn't happen. I am desperate for this as a leader here, to have a bunch of folks who care as much as you do about changing things. People think politics sucks, it's the most brutal thing, but politics is everywhere. The city pays partially for this building, it pays for everything we do. This is your money doing that. So if you want to see it work better, it's up to us, right? It's up to us to do that. And unfortunately, we've dealt with people who sit up here and don't come down with you to listen and to understand what you're going through. And so I really want to be there for you and help you organize and take a rally to Fredericton and stand outside the legislature and solidarity with all of you for what you're doing here, and just shout at people like David Coon and tell them that what we got to do is change the way things go. Yay, David Coon did it. But for real though, there's so many people up there who close their ears like this and don't listen and don't care to. But I care to, and I want to hear from you, and y'all can have my personal cell phone number and call me anytime, for real. I'm serious, because I am so thrilled to see this. This doesn't happen. You guys are angels. You guys are doing it for your community. And that's so important. So I just want to thank you and say, let me help, please.
I think it's time to stop paying taxes.
It's an essential service.
That other people are going to be jumping on the bandwagon, getting the courage, or coming out of the woods to do the same thing, and then the media will listen. And when the media picks it up, we've done some other things in other provinces, when the media picks it up, then you're getting free advertising, and then you're getting the power of the media behind you, so we're not just little people here in St. John.
Let's do it.
You charge interest on it.
David, I got a question for you. Is there a law in Brunswick that we have to pay taxes? Is there a law stating that?
Which law is that?
TC Council Red one.
Number of laws around taxes.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm city councilor over Ward 4. I just hate to bring my back to people, so I'll just stand here. So first of all, I own a house out in Lakewood Heights. Last year, my assessment went up $38,000. This year, it's gone up $58,000. So yeah, we're feeling the pinch a little bit. So I'm with you. I have to tell you something. So when Kevin Futch, the chief finance officer of the city, said that we were gonna lower the tax rate again, I had to go home and think about it. Now, why the heck, when my residents would be paying $9 million more this year from last year, would I have to think about it? I know that you don't just want me to lower your tax rate, you need me to lower your tax rate, but I went home and thought about it because I knew that as soon as I did that, I was gonna lower heavy industry taxes by $388,000. It's just not fair. And then when I had the conversation with Kevin Fudge again and said, look, if we decide we wanted to lower it again for our residents, would they get a bigger cut? And he said, yeah, they sure would.
Who negotiated
So-
that deal?
You know, we need to keep our heavy industry tax. We also need different class taxes, because this is not the way. This is how it's unfair. You need to be able to pay a different classification from other businesses, from heavy industry. It needs to be 3 different levels. So I'm sorry that I had to sleep on it, but I just thought I'm gonna give them a break again. You know, but we didn't have a choice. That's how it is. So we need to change the classifications desperately, because I don't need to blink an eye next year. I need to try to lower your tax rate, right? So that's what it is. And so I thought that the Higgs government was gonna go ahead and do all these tax changes that the white paper showed, which Kevin Fudge was a big part of, and would have showed fairness for the whole province, not just St. John, but the whole province. And it hasn't happened. There is some regionalization of services, and I did want to mention to you, the Grand Bay Westfield, Quispeam, Rosse, they've been paying into that for decades. So when it comes to paying into the Aquatic Center and TV station, all that's been happening forever. The assessments going up like crazy is much more recent. So that hasn't changed this. And unfortunately, St. John has been paying way more, because we've been paying all the capital costs on all those buildings too. So just to kind of give you a little bit of info on that.
This is the first year for our district that they're making us pay.
For Hampton.
For Hampton, probably for Hampton, but Quispeam,
We're Funday Rural District.
yeah,
This is the first year that they're trying to push St. John infrastructure on our tax.
it would be new for you guys, yeah, but Quispeam, Rosse, Grand Bay Westfield, they've been paying for decades. So yeah, I'm sorry, Hampton and St. Martin's.
Funday Rural
Funday,
is what our
right.
district is now, that we're amalgamated with several other.
That makes sense, yeah, no, that's great. Anyway, thanks, just wanted to, that's my 2 cents, so. Anyway, so we need to get this changed, and there is an election coming, so the pressure needs to be on full force.
Thank you.
I think it's time for change. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity, right? You know, so we have to come up with solutions that will work, and we're gonna have to work with the people in power. And, you know, I think that's the only way that this is ever gonna come about. You know, if you look at the total money that comes in from taxes in relation to the total budget for the province, it's skewed, right? And what they're doing is they're putting the pressure on the backs of the normal people that have homes and stuff. Like my assessment on my house jumped $100,000 last year. This year it's up 43,000, right? So, you know, if it keeps on going, we're gonna end up moving out of our homes, because we're not gonna be able to afford it, right? There's people out there that they gotta make a choice between food, medicine, or, you know, taxes, right? With the carbon tax, the property tax, the income tax, it just never ends, right? I don't know how, that's how I feel, like, you know, I pay my fair share of taxes, you know, and it's just criminal how, when you start adding it up, how much we're paying and what little we're getting for it. And I live outside of the city. I don't live in the city of St. John. I like the country life. And, you know, I don't mind paying for things, but what if we all wanted to show up at some of these venues? We're not all gonna be able to go there. So, you know, spending all this money on stuff that you won't be able to use is not a winner for me.
But the cruise people.
Hi, my name is Don Ketchum, and for the last 35 years or so, I've lived kind of in the belly of this beast. I sell real estate, and I've been doing it for that long. I see this, and I see this all the time. My wife, Marianne, and I, who's also my business partner, we get calls from clients who, especially this time of year, they're upset about their tax bills or their assessments, and we go out and we'll do evaluations for them, and sometimes it helps them. when they send that information along that we give them in terms of appealing their tax bill. I don't think that not paying our taxes, our property taxes, is probably the wisest advice I could give people. I think there needs to be change, probably at the provincial level. It doesn't seem to have been happening over the past number of years, past number of decades, so I don't know. I mean, I'm not attached to any party or anything like that, but you know, I would say Joanna and David are here tonight, and maybe they have some more radical views on things that could help us all as it relates to that. But anyway, from a statistical perspective, what's happened, and I can only speak to what's happened within the geographical area that's governed by the St. John Real Estate Board, which is pretty much from Sussex to St. Stephen, to the US border, that general area. The average sale price on houses at the end of 22 over the end of 21, so that 1 year period, okay, that we've just come out of, the average has increased by only 4%. Now, the year before that, it was 19.9%, call it 20%. That's 19.9% from 2 years ago to today. From 3 years ago to today, and this is the average sale price, it's increased by 53.3%. So, yeah, the prices have gone way up, way up. What do you do with that? I don't know, that's for people like you folks, David and Joanna, I guess, or whoever's, you know, whoever has the voice of government out there. And the other statistic, and this is gonna be not quite as accurate, but pretty accurate. Paul had mentioned our tax rate of $1.58 per hundred of assessed value. When you compare that to the surrounding communities, I'm not supporting it or being critical of it, I'm just giving you some raw data as best I could ferret out. And when I say surrounding communities, I say like Hampton, Quispamsis, Rossay, Grand Bay, Westfield, to sort of do that little circle. We're in St. John roughly 28% higher than, is that pretty accurate, Paula? Yeah.
About 28 cents.
Yeah, about 28% higher, yeah. So, I mean, call that 30%, just for easy arithmetic. If your house at the same assessed value in one of the outlying areas, if your taxes this year were $3,000, and you were living in Grand Bay, Westfield, they'd be $2,100. So that's kind of the quick arithmetic on that. I don't have solutions, I'm just giving you information. And I mean, if anyone has any questions for me either now or afterwards, I can certainly dig out more or go into more now off the top of my head, but I won't take any more of your time with that.
Thank you.
My name is Monica Gould, by the way. I'm a little incensed this week because I was out wee hours in the morning into some of the encampments, for instance, the one across from the cathedral back off the road, in a wicked storm, terribly cold, just desperate. It's the first time I went to the encampments, and I got out of my vehicle, and honestly, I thought, this is insanity. I don't know if you've been there, but you see the tents and the layers, and people are sleeping like this. We're paying these kind of taxes, the industry's not paying their share, and there's tons and tons of people in these encampments all over the city living in these conditions. It's criminal. So I'm upset this week. The more I learn about all this, the more upset I get.
I have to agree with you on that one. It's pretty crazy that we can send billions across sea, but we can't do anything for the homeless. And it goes back to the same thing with this property tax and all that and everything going up. Yeah, we're making it so much worse for these, like, I was talking to a couple today and I helped them out there and they said they're trying to get on their feet, but then when everything just went up again, they looked at me and said, forget it, I'm just gonna stay on the streets. There's no way I can do it. Almost put me in tears.
Just for a moment, Strawberry's Drug Mart sells hot water bottles for $12.99. I'm sure other places do too. So I buy the hot water bottles, and if I'm home, I fill them up with hot water, and I distribute them to the home. Just, you don't have to go far, you can find them. And they love them. And I've had to ask, you know, if I go and buy lunch, I've had to ask Tim Hortons or other establishments to fill them with hot water. They're thrilled to do it. They feel like they're doing something wonderful for people. Just an idea, a little thing if anybody wants to know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Callie. First of all, the percentage of sales rates in 2021, 22 was probably because the whole country was locked down. So, and then a huge jump later is probably because all the people who were released from Canadian prison. I'm talking about all of us who were locked down, wanted to get the heck out of the cities. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. People here seem to be, and I'm seeing it in a lot of the conversations I'm having with people around me. Now, I don't own property, I don't own land. I'm looking for property and looking for land, but I have a seasonal job. And so it's very difficult for me. I wish I had bought land like 10 years ago because I could have afforded it then, but I was putting it off. And now I look and I see that there is no way on God's green earth that I can even afford an acre with what I make seasonal. So I have great compassion for those who have properties and their taxes are just escalating through the roof. And I have great compassion, especially for seniors who are, you know, they're in their late 70s, 80s, whatever. They're on fixed incomes, and already it's hard for them, already. And then when they get a tax bill that's maybe, you know, even $500 a year more than what it was because their property values have gone up. What's gonna happen with those folks when they can't afford to pay their tax bill? It's gonna go up for a tax sale. What's gonna happen to them?
They'll be living under a bridge with all the other things.
I've been looking at the tax sales to see if there's any property that are going up for tax sale that I could afford. There are a few, and I know who some of the homeowners are because I know the area. I've grown up here. You know, I'm from the Sussex area. I've lived in St. John in my younger days. I've lived out west. So, you know, I kind of have a fairly decent grasp on the value of a piece of land. And so a couple of the pieces have gone up for a tax sale, and I know who the elderly people are that couldn't pay that tax, that had to move in with children. That doesn't sit right with me. That has to stop. So when you say not paying your taxes isn't maybe a good thing to do, well, you're gonna have a battle on your hand because if you don't pay your taxes, what happens when you don't pay your taxes?
18 months later, they put it up for sale.
Right. It used to be they'd give you, you know, a bit of time to pay it off and that sort of thing, but it's less compassionate, or it seems to be less compassionate now. So, it's not up to the government to change the rules. We've put them in that position. We have entrusted them with, yeah, they're trustees. They're supposed to be working for us, we the people. They're supposed to be. And David, bless your heart, you've done great work, but your voice is so small. For years, I've been involved in politics since I was 17. I've been watching it, I've been just following it all because I like politics. And I see what happens in our governments. These petitions Some of them can be effective, some of them can't. But when the people don't get involved and monitor those put in those positions of power to make sure that they're doing the will of the people, hearing their voices, making the changes that need to be made, then they're not getting the guidance for us, so who are they gonna be listening to? Who are you folks gonna be listening to if you don't hear from the people? Lobbyists, Irvings, whoever gives them some money in their pocket? It's up to us. We are the government.
Yes.
We are the government. And it's time people got off their arses and stopped being so complacent about what's going on in those halls. Those are our legislature buildings. They belong to us. Those are our town halls. They belong to us. The Parliament buildings belong to us. These are public buildings that our money and our sweat and tears have paid for. So we can sit here, we can go to rallies, we can feel all good about, the little things we're doing, but who's actually doing some work, doing some research, finding out what's going on, finding out who the lobbyists are, number one. Who are the lobbyists? Well, we know Irving has a whole horde of them. We know he's put a bunch of them in those MLA positions. We have one in Sussex. How many?
One of them's got a premier.
So, who are these people in the positions of power? Who are they actually working for? They're supposed to be working for us, but it's very evident they're not.
Higgs was working for Irving before. He's the one that gave him that $10 million deal with the LNG, so.
We see our money being given to those that don't need it.
Right.
And we see those who need it not getting it. That's on us.
You're here.
That's on us.
The thing was, if you didn't pay your property tax by a certain date, they used to start charging interest on it. So if they're telling people not to pay it here, God knows what's gonna happen with the interest rates going up.
Maybe some of us are gonna have to make some very tragic sacrifices.
So, one of the things, and that's going to be my final point. Someone has to, not someone, someone's, all of us, have to do something drastic to get the attention from those who are sitting in those halls of power who are making the decisions. What does it take to really get their attention? We know the media is paid off.
People.
We know the media is paid off. They're not on our side. They don't give a shit. So it's going to be an effort of getting our neighbors, our community aware that the power is in our hands. We are the government. We just appoint people like David. We appoint our counselors. Whether our votes are being actually taken into consideration or not is another whole issue. Those voting machines, we know that they're all rigged, and so it's like, did we really put that person in there? Like, who monitors that?
Corruption everywhere.
Who monitors? I know some of you, the election process, I've been a scrutineer at many elections. I've counted in those polling booths, the people are honest, but then everything gets packaged up and mailed off. And we don't know what happens to it once it gets to that central location. And so in the polling booths up in that, it's like, oh, he's gonna win. Look at all the votes here. And we know that all the people in our region feel the same way. And then we see somebody different. So, we're the government. It's time for us to get off our butts and take action. So tonight, there's a number of groups around the province as well that are working towards bringing some equity, bringing accountability back to the courts, back to our municipal and provincial governments. Forget the federals, we don't even need them really, because our provincial governments have the structure in place that could take care of our province,
Yeah.
you know?
Except the interest are different, because they want
Fill up the council
space for
chambers.
younger people. and they-
Exactly.
There's nobody that goes.
I know, but this is another problem as well. I mean, we have families, mothers and fathers, they work, they're tired, they go home, their kids are involved. And so you can understand when they don't go and fill the council chambers. So I've gone to a few council meetings in Sussex, that's where I'm from. And the only people who go there are those little groups who want to make a presentation to council. However, since the amalgamation, they have all their little committee meetings now, from this committee, that, and then they bring the results to the council meeting. Decisions been made without our input. They don't even ask for it anymore.
They don't include us in the committees.
So things have got to change, but it's going to take every one of us in our own committee or in our own community to start getting active, to bring the people that you know that are like-minded, make your little groups, because from the small, maybe 4 or 5 people will, you know, you go, you sit, you find out what's happening in your locality. You start in your own locality, excuse me, and build out from there. So there are groups, find them. They're online. There's all kinds of groups online. Facebook has tons of groups. If you want a like-minded group, go do some searching. Go do some ask around. Invite people to your home. Brainstorm, because the solution ultimately is going to rest with us. These guys are probably dying for input from real concerned people who will work towards solutions.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and we're all sitting on our butts.
Not all, yeah.
Not all, no, there's a lot that aren't. And the folks here obviously want to find solutions. Because when we don't propose the solutions, when we don't work towards those solutions, what happens is nothing. Nothing for decades. We've got to really pull together and start working. Now, there are ways to make our people in government accountable.
Callie, I don't mean to interrupt, but we're just going on 8:30.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, I'm done.
No, okay, no, thank you. Councilor Hickey had his hand up and.
Yeah, I'll just be like 30 seconds.
Yeah, unless there's anyone else, you could have the. take the
I
floor.
do have to agree with her though.
Hi folks, David Hickey, I'm a city councilor in town. I just say that there's elected officials in the room. I think despite some differences in politics, all of us pride ourselves on being very accessible. My cell phone number is 647-6733, it rings to this phone right here. It's online, and I think it's the same for these other folks, and I know David's not too far away anytime either. So never hesitate to reach out, regardless of the concern. We may not always agree on everything, but I'm happy to make sure that we are always listening and always engaged in our community. Thanks.
You answer email?
Yeah, David got it.
Okay.
Just one thing about emails though, if you don't hear back from us, it can be because the message gets filtered out. And I just had this problem myself this week where I represent an organization and I was trying to talk to the city about something and no one was responding to me. The city did get a cyber attack that cost us a fair bit of money to recover from. So there are security measures in place to try to avoid that. So if you send an email and you don't get a response, call us.
Yeah, always call
It
us.
just, the email sometimes doesn't get through, that's all.
Yeah.
Is there anybody who cares to expand on the calculation that Mr. Kuhn had, said exists for the property tax? Like, if there's a formula, then it's obviously being fed by the humans who administer it.
By sale price. Largely
Sale
driven by
price.
sale price.
I wish I knew.
But again, it's also in a black box. We are not allowed to see into the formula that serviced New Brunswick. Because, and here's the problem with it, because they would call it insider trading. If you knew how the formula worked, You could rig the game so that you never, right?
So
So
we
it's a
can't
problem.
know, but they can know, they can rig the game in
And
their
that's-
favor, but we can't.
I know, and that is a problem, and they've said.
Corruption.
Okay, so
We gotta work on changing those things.
Yeah.
Like, not just sitting down and accepting it, we need to work on changing the formula and what gets pumped in there.
Make it clear.
Can you make us know how we can do this, please? Because we'd like some action items, we'd like something we can do tonight, or tomorrow when we go home. We don't wanna leave here with the feeling that we didn't do anything, we wanna feel accomplished, so please, enlighten us of how we can accomplish this.
Mondays, your constituency offices are open to go to see them face to face, demand to see the formula yourself. The more people that ask for that formula, the more they're gonna be on notice, right? So like, if you wanna see it.
Formula of what?
The formula for how they assess your property. Ask them, how do you do that? How did you come up with that number?
Okay, thanks everyone. We just have one more person that's gonna speak. You're welcome to stay around afterwards. We have the hall is booked, but just to end the formal meeting session.
Yeah, I'd like to know how that formula is played out, because I'll tell you what happened with me. I bought my house in 2014, I paid $305 for it, no, $305,000 for it, sorry. But anyway, it turns out that my property assessment was at that time was $348,000. Now it's worth $534,000. Since 2020, that went up. Now, just recently, they called me up. Now, before I bought my house was listed as having an en-suite, 5-bedroom. I mean, I don't want to get into particulars, but it's getting really expensive. My taxes were like $5,000 plus a year. Now that my property assessment just this year has jumped $64,000. And they called my wife up and saying, does your house have an en-suite? Now, they already knew when I bought my house, before when I was paying taxes, what the house had in it. Back when it was much newer, now it's got a half of, like the basement, the en-suite had water damage, so I had to rip up all the floors, and then the roof needs replacing. So they call up and acted as if though my house was like, they didn't know nothing about my house. And they pushed up my taxes $64,000 this year. Like, how am I supposed to afford that? They just pushed up my mortgage assessment. Like, my mortgage rate is now at $1,700 a month from $1,300. You know, they just keep putting it up and up and up and up. I got 3 kids. You know, I have to travel away to work. I was gone a year and a half. I was only home 3 times in a year and a half because I had to be away working. You know, it's getting harder for families, young families. I got a diabetic daughter. I have to make sure she's got food every month, and she has her diabetic supplies. When people have all these problems at home, they can't afford to keep pushing shit up. People can't handle it anymore. We're at our breaking point. You know, and it's like, what do they want us to do? You know, like, I'm at my wit's end. I just can't, I don't know how I'm gonna support my family anymore. My wife can't get a job. I mean, we've been living here, we moved here, I'm from Cape Breton, and I'm thinking about going back there, because at least tax rates are a hell of a lot cheaper. You know, and I got waterfront frontage with that. You know what I mean? And it's just, how is anybody gonna cope? They're not. You know what I mean? But you know, but I just found it really, they were looking for a reason to put up our taxes. They called us up, like, wanting to know, oh yeah, you know, like, yeah, we think you have this. It's like, it's an en-suite, doesn't have a washer and dryer, it's not an apartment.
Why didn't you tell them no?
We did.
Paul and I lied through my teeth.
Yeah, but we did that. You know, our house is almost inaccessible for anybody else who's not a professional driver like me. You know what I mean? Because my driveway's so steep, I can't just rent it out to anybody. In the wintertime, they'll be walking through the snow up to their hips. You know what I mean? So it's, you know, it's like something has to be done. People just can't do it anymore. Everybody's gonna be leaving New Brunswick. You know, and the problem is there's nowhere to go. Like, apparently in Russia they're giving away land for nothing. You know what I mean? Yeah, if you want to start a farm there, they'll actually help you. You know what I mean? So, I mean, is that going to be our solution? Is to leave our own country, our homeland? Because that's what's going to happen. You know, and look, I want to go green. I love the thought of going green. You know, I got a bit of a green thumb. I rode horses when I was a kid, and I milked 4 cows every morning. Okay? So I know what it's like to be on the other side You know, I hated cars when I was a kid, okay? But I'm a crane operator, so I work in the oil industry, and I don't realize how important that our oil industry is to us, okay? And as we transition away from this from oil, I'd like to know how, if you can tell me how we're gonna pave our roads when there's no asphalt. How are we gonna pave our roads? How are the people living out in the country gonna pay for the roads out there and keep their infrastructure up when there's no asphalt? No, you're not gonna live there, so what they're doing is they're forcing us to move into the cities. So there's fewer resources to, you know, at least we'll be able to keep everybody kind of pushed in and up. And I'm a crane operator, I see lots of buildings. I was in Vancouver the other year, and a taxi driver said, oh, that area you're living is all zoned. Everybody's gonna be, houses are gonna be demolished, and they're putting up all these 15-minute built cities. That one area, it's like beautiful homes. Like, what? You know? I was in Toronto, and it's just, I was surprised to see just how many foreigners are bringing in to build all these high rises. You know, tower cranes everywhere. And I was in Halifax, working in Halifax on a tower crane. You know what I mean? Building buildings. I've never seen so many buildings going up in cities in my life. But anyway.
The only reasonable solution in another decade is if we're just gonna put all our seniors down.
But I mean, it's getting crazy. We have to think about our seniors. Our seniors are aging, and you know what? The young people are moving away. My father. Now I want to finish this very quickly here. But my father is living at home. He's a diabetic. He was snowed in. He was living, about 1,000 feet from the road. For 3 days, he couldn't move anywhere. He's got half a foot from diabetes. I'd love to live close to where my father lives. There's no work there. Port Hawkesbury is a dead town. Okay? All the infrastructure that was there and the promise of a bright future is now gone. All the young people are moving away, and the seniors are being left to fend for themselves. If we keep that up, eventually there's going to be nobody to look after our seniors.
It's because the companies left the town.
What's that?
That's because the companies left the town, right?
Companies, yeah, the companies left the town, but I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why they left the town. I'll tell you why. Because whenever there would be a big project come in, all this money would get funneled in. They wanted to open an LNG in Port Hawkesbury. All the activists got together and said, no, we don't want it. And they shut it down. There was a container pier. They wanted to put a container pier there? Yeah, no, we don't want it. Time and time again, when there's a chance to build the infrastructure in our local communities, the activists get together and shut it down.
Well, we haven't shut these guys down, and I can tell you, these billionaires are doing real
well, they're
well.
going to be shutting down pretty soon because Irving's being sold. I don't know if you heard that, but they're being sold. So guess what? We can tax the hell out of them after we sell it.
Okay, so we do have to adjourn. Just two things, and Edie has one more thing.
I just have one. So I read in either one of my papers or on the SMB website that they use satellite imagery to calculate, to reassess your properties now. So it's not even a matter so for example, I have 2 pieces of property. Regardless of how much my assessment went up, it had been since 2017 when they took their last satellite image. So how are they basing anything that's been done in that time to justify anything going up? So I'm just saying this is another thing we might want to talk to our MLA. It ties into the calculation process. If we're literally going off satellite imagery, how are we going to know exactly what people are doing aside from, I was being charged for, those garages that you buy with the metal frame and then you put your thing over it? Well, I'm being charged for that on my property as a building, and there isn't even a thing over it. It's a metal frame in my yard that I'm being charged for. So, just check, go on the SMD website. I've got all the links. I can give you some contact information if you want to come up to me after, and that's it for me.
Dave, I just got a quick question. Is there anything currently on the legislative floor being discussed right now about the disarray of these assessments on the properties?
We're not back till March.
You're not back until March?
March 19th. Yeah, we have, 6 days to get our assessments in.
Yes.
This is fun. I love trying to crunch it.
Interesting. How convenient. Merle had a comment, I think.
Yeah. I'm a senior. Next month I'll be 80 years old.
Talking to the mic.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'm a senior. I'll be 80 years old next month. There was a lot of activity in Fredericton and around the province in the last 3 years, and I've been involved in that. If we seniors stand up, we will get respect. If the rest of you support the seniors, we will get respect. That you won't get, you younger people, they'll say, oh yeah, well, you want everything for nothing. No. They forced us seniors into a hard position where we're going to start losing our property because we can't afford to keep it anymore. Now, in the last year and a half, I landed in jail twice. I landed in jail because I stood up in the court system and what is the word? I acted out my rights in the court system. Now, we are really making jumps forward in the court system here in the province. We have natural law teams that are working, and these guys are getting good. And they're kicking the shit out of these judges, and they really are. They're embarrassing the hell out of it.
We fill the courtrooms.
We're now filling the courtrooms. When we started out, when we would go to a court, there'd be a SWAT team at the door. I kid you not. There'd be a SWAT team at the door. 5 or 6 guys, 9mm on their hips, flak vests on, a club in the pocket, and two-way radio, and they were there to meet us. At one time in Fredericton, in one of our guy, Ivan, who's one of our top legal guys, they had him in jail. Okay, and they were trying him. Now he had a right to be in the courtroom to face his accusers. They had him downtown in the jail. The judge was in the courtroom. He was not present, and they wanted him to identify himself. Well, anyways, long story short, she got pissed off, and she said, this is enough. Clear the courtroom. And I was there. There were a bunch of us there. We have a right in the courtrooms in the province. We have what's called an open court system. And in the open court system, anybody, we as citizens, have a right to be in the courtroom and to witness that justice is being done. They somehow, along the way back behind us, they put out the impression that no, they called the shots in the courtroom. Well, that is not so. So everybody cleared the courtroom, and I didn't. I said, I have a right to be here, I have a right of oversight, and I'm going to exercise that. Well, 3 of them grabbed me, which was a big mistake, because an old fart like me, and I was having a hard time with my back, and they muscled me downstairs, and it didn't look good. Well, they did that twice. I've been through that twice. The third time they were going to do it, and they were getting ready to haul me away, and the head of the SWAT team came over and he said, Merle, he said, don't do this. He said, we got to find another way to do this. Don't do this. They did not want to drag me up the stairs and put me in the jail again because it's damn poor. It's a bad image. I'm an old soldier. I got a bad back. At that particular time, I was on crutches. And the worst thing in the world I could have did was manhandle me. Now, the point of all this is, and the point is, if we stand our ground, us seniors especially, I don't have to go home and look after my kids. If they want to put me in jail for a night or a week, to hell with it. Free food, what else? But no, we as seniors have a tremendous power. And if the rest of you back up the seniors, you will have tremendous power. okay? So get out there. We have, now the other thing, how I got back on the street is a simple thing, and I want you all to learn this, for God's sake, please. From the Magna Carta, which was in the 12th century, there was a piece of law passed in British Parliament that has been handed down and handed down and handed down and still exists in Canadian law. And it is called the right of habeas corpus. And the right of habeas corpus says, if somebody takes you into custody and ties you up, throws you in a car, hauls you away, holds you against your will, when you call the right of habeas corpus, they are bound by the law. In the old times, they used to be bound by the law within 24 hours to place you before a judge who would make a judgment on the validity of them taking you into custody. And they did that recklessly. They grabbed people and they threw them under custody because the people didn't know they had the right of habeas corpus. We still have that right. And when, in both of those occasions, actually there was another occasion, they took me in a police car and they were going to haul me away. And in each case, I called my right to habeas corpus. Within 15 minutes, I was on the street. And there were no charges laid. They threatened me. They said, you're going to be charged, we're going to take you downtown, we're going to charge you. They never laid a charge on me. It's a lie. And what they want you to see is them hauling somebody away and throwing them in the slammer. And that's the image that they want you to think is right. Well, it's not. And when you call habeas corpus, and when you stand your ground, they have to back off, and they have to let you go. Have the courage to go to jail if you must. You'll be out.
One more quick thing, guys. I just want to let you know that some of us, like him, me, and a bunch more in here, and not here, have been fighting this battle for a while. We realize that there's so much corruption, it's not even funny. And the more you dig, the more you see. And I can tell you right now, I don't wonder anymore. I know for a fact. And we're done with it. We're seriously done with it. So all I'm going to say is that we've been fighting this so long that all we need is people to stand up with us, and we will lead the way. It's that simple. Keep in touch with us. Another thing is there's a form going around. If you want to keep in touch with Callie, and so we can all kind of keep together, and anybody can come up to me, and I'm sure other people too, and we can exchange numbers or anything. And one last thing. If everybody leaves, if you could, we have the forms I already handed out. If you could take at least 2, maybe 4 or 5 or 6, whatever you want to take, and take them and start giving them to people and maybe explain to them, it would go a long way. People can start photocopying them and so on. I do agree with the Second Amendment on the second part there. I think it would be a good idea to go to the MLAs instead. But yeah, so thank you very much, everybody.
You got that by email, Mike?
Pardon me?
You got that by email?
We could do it in any form, for sure. Just gotta get our contact and we'll make it work. I'll send it myself. Whatever you need to do, just come see us. Thank you, everybody.
Last year was the absolute worst. Before that, everything's beautiful. The best one we've had, yes.